The most noteworthy thing about artificial intelligence policy in the Nordics is how tightly it fits with the European approach. With the amount of turbulence we have seen in the EU in recent years with regards to the migration crisis, the euro crisis, Brexit, the democratic backsliding in Hungary and Poland, it seems that AI is sort of a consensual policy area. And therefore, it is striking to see how well the Nordic strategies fit into the European framework of AI policy. Institutionally, the European Commission has agenda setting powers and agenda control in the EU, uh, both in a legislative sense, but also in a normative sense. So the Commission can also set normative standards for the countries in the EU uh, without ties to legislation. So this is how the AI policy should be conceptualized, more along the lines of soft law or normative power rather than legislative demand from the EU. So, for example, no one talked about AI 5 years ago. If we look at government records from 2010 to 2020, we can see a sharp increase in AI, talk about AI, press conferences about AI, and discussions about AI, both at the parliament level as well as the governmental level in the Nordics. So, and we also see a range of initiatives within the public as well as the private sector. This is partly due to an international trend with increasing business investments, increased technological development, and also as well increased academic and research-based interest in AI. And if you look to the Swedish case, for example, or in the Nordics, the WASP AI, the Wallenberg Autonomous Systems and Software Program, is basically probably the biggest AI initiative in the whole of the Nordic countries. When it comes to implementation, I see two interrelated dilemmas, we can say. So the first thing is decoupling. I mean, it is one thing to write a strategy, it is a totally different to implement a strategy. To implement a strategy, you need to build proper capacity and work continuously towards achieving the goal that you've set out in the strategy. Since we see a rise in AI discussion, we see a rise in AI strategies in the Nordic countries, we can definitely talk the talk, but can we actually walk the walk? That is the main dilemma now that we will see play out in the future. The other point is the idea of a human-centric AI. I mean, a central tenet in European and therefore also Nordic AI policy is the fact that AI should be used for the betterment of society. It is a human-centric approach. At the same time, we see a growing concern about the power wielded by Silicon Valley giants. I mean, Shoshana Zuboff at Harvard makes a relevant point concerned around the commodification of personal data, for example, for profit purposes. So in the Nordic countries as well as the EU, this is a question of striking the balance between opening up for innovation and research on the one hand and have a solid legislation and a human-centric approach on the other hand. It comes down to the extent of state intervention or government intervention in the digital market. Therefore, one of the greatest dilemmas in this debate is to have a solid framework which protects consumers, but does not stifle innovation and research in European AI. My name is Frans from Malmborg, and I am a Ph.D. student at the University of Agder in Norway at the Department of Political Science, currently researching AI policy in EU and in the Nordic countries.